Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's Facebook Live session titled The Homestay Experience for High School Students. My name is Amira Jiwaji, and I'm an International Recruitment Coordinator at Vancouver Island University, specializing in the high school and the English Language Center. And I'm joined today on the panel by Catherine Brazier, Principal of the High School at Vancouver Island University, and Danielle Johnsrud, Manager of the Homestay and Off-Campus Housing at Vancouver Island University. Thank you both for being here.
Pleasure.
So Homestay is an important part of the Study in Canada experience. And as you know, many of our students and sometimes parents have a challenging time understanding what it means to be living with a Canadian family. So the expectations that are placed on the student and the Homestay family are the bulk of questions that we receive as our international recruiters and supporters of you. So today's session will address some of these concerns in an attempt to improve the Homestay experience for all of our students. We'll start with a 10-minute introduction on the Homestay program, and then we'll have around 20 minutes of questions and some scenario questions. If you're watching us live, feel free to send those in on the Facebook Live link. And we'll start with you, Danielle.
Sure. So our Homestay program houses university and high school students through VIU. We have 171 Homestay families. 122 of them have students right now. For us, a Homestay program is based on 4 graduate attributes. VIU has graduate attributes that we want our students to learn and grow into as they participate in our programs. And so Homestay is a learning experience, and so we want families to know that. It's focused on the ability to build respectful relationships and intercultural perspective, to work on their oral communication and for collaboration. So everything that we do in Homestay is working towards those graduate attributes for our students. In our program, we have 110 families that have pets, and so that is very typical in Canada to have families that have pets. Cats, dogs, birds are quite popular. 61% of families have no pets, and so those are considerations if you have allergies to animals or are afraid of animals. And our breakdown for our host families is that 58% of families are not religious, where 42% of them self-identify as participating in a religion. And so Homestay is about bringing culture into a Nanaimo family's home and for a student to engage in the local Nanaimo, VIU, high school, and Canadian culture. And so it's about living with a family, following a family's lifestyle and household guidelines, so you are an active part of that family. So we would expect high school students to participate in that family as well as a given age of a student or an adult in that home. And so that means participating in family chores, like cleaning your bathroom, cleaning your bedroom, cleaning up after dinner. And it's really that lived Canadian experience. And so you're learning about, yes, what it is to be Canadian, but also what it is to be that family. And so every house is a bit different in how they operate. So we have Homestay guidelines and rules for our program and for the high school, but each family operates on their own set of Homestay or household rules.
And in terms of the look of that family, it could be anything. We have single moms, we have...
Absolutely. We do have single moms, we have retired couples, we have couples with families, blended families, and so really the breakdown of our families are different. We just heard a stat today on CBC that said that 78% of Canadians are Caucasian, but that doesn't mean, but that is representative in our program. So we do have the diversity that is represented in Canada. So different skin colors, different accents, different ethnicities, because it is a multicultural country. And so each family looks different. If I were to put a page of them in front of you, different families, they would all look different, and they would all have different experiences. Lots have traveled internationally as well, and so that's part of the reason why they're participating in this program, is because they themselves have experienced an international experience and want to host students, or they want their children to be exposed to culture.
So one last question before I move to Catherine. How far away are most of our homes from campus?
We have a general catchment of 45 minutes by public transit to the university. And so Nanaimo is a long city that follows the water. And so we ask our families to be within 45 minutes, and we try to look at multiple bus routes. And so what is the most consistent time? There's going to be a few that might be just over that 45 minutes when you take a bus at a certain time of day, and then at another time of day it might be way less than that 45 minutes. And so we try to look at that as a general consistency, because our host families actually don't drive our students everywhere. We expect our host families to teach students how to use public transit, and then our students are to use public transit. And so we want them to have the ability to access different things in the city. And what might seem close to the university on a map may actually be far in terms of bus. So we are trying to constantly look at that catchment, but right now it's about 45 minutes is what our standard is. But there are families that may exceed that a bit, but then there's some special arrangements and considerations that we make with that.
Okay, all right, great. Catherine, can you tell us, not sure if you know the statistics offhand, but how many students we have in the Homestay program, something about the countries that they're from, and most importantly, how Homestay is different for high school students as compared to university?
Okay, well, I'll start answering that question, but I'm certainly going to turn to Danielle to help fill in some of the specifics. In terms of the diversity at our high school, we have a very diverse, internationally diverse population. Currently this year we have 24 different countries represented, including Canada, in our school, and which makes us very, very unique in the province. So students are coming from every continent, and they come to our school, and the thing that I love is when I look at the students in the school, they're more the same than they are different. They're all teenagers, and they all understand each other. In terms of how many countries are represented or numbers in Homestay, I believe there's about 50 students in Homestay, and how many countries?
We have about 13 different countries represented in Homestay between the university and the high school, but actually the high school brings us our largest diversity in terms of international students. So we do have students from Uganda and from Vietnam, Japan, China, Iran, and so it Sierra Leone. So it does bring and hosts like that to see different cultures coming into the program, because they learn so much as well.
So in terms of how the high school Homestay experience is different, what is some of the extra attention we pay to it?
Different for a high school student versus a university student. There's very definitely much more supervision, and this can sometimes be a small disappointment for the high school students who think that they are escaping parents and coming and having all kinds of freedom in Canada. And one of the first things I tell them is, you may not have your mom and dad here, but you have your Canadian mom, and that's me. And so it is most important that students are safe and secure and well looked after in Homestay. So I ensure that by working very closely with Danielle. We communicate regularly about the Homestay situation. I will also communicate with Homestay families if that's necessary, although usually that communication goes through Danielle. But we are not separate. We both work together to ensure that the experience for the students is the very best that it can be.
And we've recently introduced an increase in the Homestay fee that we're charging per month. And the thinking behind that is?
The thinking behind that, in Nanaimo, it's a smaller city, so it is a little bit more difficult to attract lots of Homestay families. We have the local school district, we have other independent schools that are all trying to attract the same families. For us, because our Homestay program is in-house, we don't contract out, we really work to ensure the quality control. And so attracting families to our program who are paid a little bit more is one of the strategies that we use. And families don't come into our Homestay program because they get paid more. They come into our Homestay program because they know they have much better support from the school and from the university than other contracted homestay services. Danielle puts on all kinds of training for homestay families, specific for the high school. I will join in those as well. So, and they have a very rigorous screening process for families coming into our program. And how many actually pass your screening process? Is it about half?
I would say it's less than half. We get lots of inquiries all
Yeah.
the time because we are hosting housing university students too, and so we can see upwards to over 50 applications at a time, and maybe only 10 will make it through to the final stage because it is more than just receiving an honorarium for housing a student. It needs to be a family that's willing to bring a student into their household, into their daily lives, and so it is a 4-stage process. They have to fill out an online application, and then we vet based on a number of things, which includes transit, and we look very seriously at that. Then they have to do a home interview and a home inspection where we go look at the room. We look at egress needs, so that's fire safety needs, so smoke detectors, we measure windows, we talk about fire safety, earthquake safety, and then we have an interview questionnaire about why does someone want to host a student, what kind of challenges may they experience, how will they enforce household rules, what are they hoping to gain from an experience like this. And then, if they're successful through that process, they're invited to a 3-hour required training, which it's quite rigorous, which will then be required every 3 years. And
right,
then
that was going to be my question. Do you do it regularly?
Yes.
Refresh it.
And then we have these ongoing training sessions. We offer about 6 per year. And so if we're seeing that a host is having a challenge, or we will ask them or request them to go to one of the training sessions. And we have our faculty from the English Language Center develop sessions. We have Catherine that's helped develop sessions that they're targeted at the specific needs of the students. And our focus, because we're a university and high school based program and we're in-house, is about learning. We want our hosts to learn and we want our students to learn. So that is where our heart is coming from whenever we're talking about a challenge in a home, is about what are we going to be learning from this process. Because there's usually always 2 sides to a story. And what I always say is what may be normal to us may only be cultural. And that's for your student as well. What might be normal to them may only be something cultural. And so oftentimes there's a lot of conversation that needs to be happening around that.
Thank you. So I was going to reflect on the close relationship that the two of you have, but I think you just demonstrated that by finishing sentences. So I'm going to move to Danielle and ask you to talk about the award ceremony that you had recently. You talked about that yesterday, and just highlight what it means to have a certain family in your program for a long term.
Yeah, it's quite incredible. It was about 2 weeks ago that we had our long-term service reception for host families achieving different milestones within our program, all the way just starting at 5 years to 30 plus years. We had 2 families that were over 30 years of experience, and even just to see the pride on their face receiving something from the university. And we see them as a VIU community member, so an extension. So therefore, there are rules within VIU that apply to homestay hosts as well. But just people being very proud to be part of a homestay community, because they take that role very seriously, and they take that role of offering up their home seriously. It may look different for every host, and we honored 130 of our 171 for hitting a milestone this year because it was our first one. And so just to see the attendance, we host events all the time, and every single person who RSVP'd arrived and then some. And so that speaks to the commitment that these hosts have and the desire to be part of this community. So for us, it was kind of that incredible moment of, oh, this is something that's pretty special, and that as a university and a high school, we get to do this. And that was, for me, a good milestone moment. And so we hope to be doing that regularly, and what they receive is just a recognition as a certificate, plaque, for what they've done, and then they continue to keep hosting. Because there's a lot that goes into it. We always say too, it's not just about the financial component. If we were to actually break down the cost of food, the cost of utilities, the cost of all those things, $850 or $925 a month wouldn't cut it in the rental market that we have. And it is, hosts are doing this more for that experience. Yes, it's nice to receive extra for having to prepare additional meals or having more laundry going in the home or extra utilities happening, but they really have to want to do this because it's a desire. And that's why we keep talking about it as an experience. And so oftentimes you might be thinking, oh, this is just a place to live. It's more than that. Yeah.
So Catherine, the other piece with having students who are under 18 in our high school program is that you are the custodian. And a lot of other schools have the homestay family appointed custodian. Can you tell me about the advantages of having you as a high school principal as well?
I can't be the Canadian mom if I'm not the custodian. It actually, having me as the custodian ensures that there is more consistency in safety. And also consistency in rules, students wanting to go visit other locations, maybe wanting to go overnight to Vancouver. If the homestay host was a custodian, I would likely be in a situation where one student gets to go to Vancouver without any hassle, and another student may not be able to go at all. So I am the custodian, and all students who want to leave Nanaimo for the day or overnight have to get permission from me. That allows me to really go through their plans, ensure that it's a safe trip, that they are properly supervised. So I don't ever let a 15-year-old go overnight to Vancouver unless there is a responsible adult that I have connected with who will be supervising them. That makes some of them a little bit sad, but they learn how to manage that. And one of the questions I ask them often in situations like that is, in your own country, if you wanted to do this by yourself, would your parents say yes? Usually the answer is no, they wouldn't let me. And I go, well, that's why I'm saying no too. But they do get lots of opportunities to go, away for the day, to go shopping, to do other. But with me being the custodian, I am assured that safety plans are in place, that they are well supervised, and that they're not doing anything silly or dangerous.
Okay, so let's go to some scenario questions.
Sure.
Right. So my first one is, I would like to choose the family I live with, and we often get this request from families who want to select either the religious or cultural background of the family that their children are living with. So what is our response to that?
And so we generally do not place students of the same cultural background with a host of the same cultural background because, again, it's about the learning experience. We do have a profile that the student is to fill out when they apply to the high school that asks some very detailed questions about things they like or dislike, including any preferences or religious or health or any dietary preference. And so we do want you to be as open and clear about those because our philosophy is trying to create the best possible match. Although we cannot take all considerations in to play because it's about what we have in our program. And as I said, we have 171 hosts. And so for us, it's filling out the application. We may ask some more questions, but we generally, if you were to say to me, I would like to be with someone who speaks Mandarin as a second language and I speak Mandarin, we would say, unfortunately, that's not the philosophy of our program. And so we would clarify those things right up front with whether it's the student, the parent, the agent, whoever's in that circle of communication right from the get-go.
So that would also go in terms of them choosing the ethnic background of the family?
Yes, we cannot do that. One of the things is that would a bit be a violation of human rights to select based on those types of things. We have already screened our hosts to be active participants in our program. And so we look at the profile and what the host has the profile. So we look at the structure of the family, the kids, the busyness of the family sometimes, what has the student selected as a priority diet. So if someone said that they required a vegetarian diet, we only have a select amount of hosts that we would be able to place that student with. So that brings down the pool of what is available. So it's important. So what is the most important to your son or daughter is going to be the thing that you should be trying to reflect. And we try to take some of our preferences into consideration.
Okay. Catherine, one for you. My older brother is a student at VIU, or my aunt lives in Nanaimo. Can I live with them if I'm a student at the high school?
So I get questions like that fairly regularly. There's no one response to that. It really is a case by case. One of the reasons, okay, so I am the custodian, and one of my rules is that any student for whom I'm the custodian must stay in the VIU homestay. And I say that because it is the only way that I can ensure safety and communication about what is happening for the student and that everything is okay. If a student has a request to live with a family member, generally the answer will be only if they can be the custodian for your son or daughter.
Okay.
And in order to be a custodian, you must be a Canadian citizen, at least 25 years of age, or a permanent resident, at least 25 years of age. The 25 years is pretty much a non-negotiable for me anyway. And yeah, so if that family member meets that criteria, then yes. But the family needs to understand that then I am not responsible for the student's safety outside of school. They have asked their family member to do that.
So in the instance where it's an older brother at VIU, possibly 25 and above, when the student for high school is applying for their study permit, would that brother be filling that custodian form which you currently fill?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. My next scenario question, open to both. I have nothing to do on the evenings and weekends, and my homestay families don't take me anywhere.
Oh my goodness, I've never heard that before. Well, one of the things I want people to be aware of is every homestay family is different. We do not have an expectation that homestay hosts program or run activities for their students. We encourage them to involve them in their family day-to-day life. Some hosts have soccer practice and hockey practice and choir practice, and they're going to and from different activities, and will invite students to go along with those activities. That includes weekly things like groceries. Some will do camping trips, or some will go to Victoria, but it really varies. We encourage the student to talk to the host about what they are hoping for in their homestay, because hosts cannot read minds. Because remember, what may be normal to us may only be cultural, and sometimes speaking up for what you're hoping for will help. But as I said, it is not the host family's responsibility to program different activities or showcasing the island. We encourage it, but it's not that requirement. We do have a lot of different things on campus through the Faculty of International Education that students can sign up for. Their different day trips. They would have to have permission from the custodian to participate. But they are facilitated by staff, so they're well curated and focused and programmed and safe, and there's a lot of safety pieces put into that. So we would encourage students to plan financially to have some extra funds to be able to participate in those things, and that includes if they are to go on family trips, because we wouldn't expect a host family to purchase a lift ticket for a student at Mount Benson, or to purchase
an airline ticket. Pay for hotel rooms or that type of thing.
Yeah, and so it is really dependent on the family. And so we encourage right from the beginning that that student starts to have that conversation of like, what are they hoping to see? Because a lot of hosts are open to talking about that. They oftentimes just don't know, because homestay is about living their life and including that student in it. And so oftentimes it's not going to be like, what does Amira want to do today? I want to make sure that I'm doing an activity for Amira.
Let me guess.
Yeah, let me guess.
And I think to bring it back, we need to also talk about what is the purpose of the student being in Canada.
Yes.
And they're here on a study permit, not on a tourist visa. And while the whole experience, as
Mhm.
Danielle was saying, is, you know, they want to experience other things. The core purpose of being here is the studies.
Mhm.
And so at school, they are doing their coursework, they're moving towards their graduation, and there are also other activities that happen at school that are in the fun realm, and there are optional trips and that kind of thing. So, you know, all of the suggestions that Danielle made about accessing, there's community, recreation centers that have programs, the university has programs. There is a lot for a student who has the curiosity to ask. We do encourage that asking, as Danielle said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have one more scenario question. Do we have enough time? Yeah? Okay. All right. So let's go with the last one and then we'll do the quick wrap up.
Okay.
There isn't enough food at my homestay. My homestay mom does not cook and I do not know how to cook. I'm always hungry or spending my pocket money on food.
Well, and so it is a conversation. There's also the Homestay office, which we can help navigate those conversations. But we'll always ask a lot of detailed questions around food because it's often mostly misunderstood relationship with food culture in Canada. And so breakfast, lunch, and dinner are very different tools than it's not a big, sometimes family meal at breakfast.
Okay.
They may just be grabbing a piece of toast or a cereal and a fruit and heading off to school. Or the family may eat together. Again, it's very different family to family. And we can also ask questions as parents to how to coach your student to ask questions. Because these are people's homes and they're receptive to, they want to please the student, but they have to hear from the student what that looks like.
Right. Okay, excellent. Catherine, do you want to add anything before I wrap up?
No, I think Danielle's said that really well. This may be just one thing is that we have what's called a food studies course at the high school, and I do my very best to get every single student through that course at least once at the grade 11 level. And in that course, students get to experience all the different range of foods from different countries because they each get an opportunity to share their favorite food, as well as Canadian food. So we do our best to expose them to different kinds of food.
Excellent.
And sometimes they go, hey, this is really good, I didn't know.
And I like this more than pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, excellent. So I'd like to thank both of you, Danielle and Catherine, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And a special thanks to our MBA interns, Jason and Ilan, who are running the show behind the scenes. We'll prepare a transcript of today's session and I'll put that on the high school website so you can check there for any responses. And if you have any other questions, you can contact us on highschool@viu.ca. Thank you again for joining us, and goodbye.